This is Road Noise, episode number 53. What do I do when people let me down? Hello and welcome again to another episode of Road Noise Life, 1 mile at a time. I'm your host, Michael Blackston. You're sitting beside me in the passenger seat as I drive on my commute to Rock Hill, South Carolina. This is the first time I've ever been to Rock Hill, South Carolina to do an etching. It's a new customer. Actually, it's an old customer that bought out. It's a new customer that bought out an old customer, and so I've got a new place to go when I'm going to do some hand etching up here, and I hope it's not the last time I go, but I got a job to do when you're sitting alongside me. If you hear something that sounds like a rumble under my voice, that's just the noise from the road, hence the reason I call it road noise. And we're going to learn to live life 1 mile at a time. In this episode, we're going to talk about what to do when people let you down. And the reason I decided to go ahead with this topic is because there were a couple of things that hit me this week with a couple of different friends of mine that kind of tied in together. In fact, the first one is what made me decide I wanted to do this topic. And as I was mulling it over, is this what I want to do? Then another friend kind of came to me for some advice about something where somebody else had let her down. And so I said, yeah, this is one I think I want to go ahead and talk to you about, because people let us down all the time. It happens constantly. It's the human race. I mean, it's we're flesh and we're not perfect. And people are going to do things that we don't like or that are going to disappoint us. We're going to do things that other people don't like and that disappoint them. How you handle it will dictate how you feel. And you can do it by wallowing in the negative, or you can do it by finding some light in a positive. And I think that's what we want to focus on today. So how do you go about doing that? Well, the first thing I want to do is give you the story of these two friends. The first one reached out basically to everybody on Facebook. She had been recently in a pretty serious car accident. She didn't get hurt really badly, but she did have some injuries, I think. I can't call her one of my closest friends. She's somebody I went to school with, but I see her stuff on Facebook all the time. And she had recently found this guy that she'd been searching for some companionship for a while, and she found this guy that was going to be perfect for her. She was just so madly in love with him. Then all of a sudden, she just felt like everything in her life was falling apart. She had this wreck. She had to start dealing with that. And then out of the blue, this guy that she thought was perfect, she thought loved her like she loved him, just left her. And it broke my heart when she put out on Facebook the way she was feeling. She just said she felt like everything was hopeless, that nothing was going right, that her life was just hopeless. She even said that she loves her children, but other than her children, everything else in her life from the day she was born has been a disappointment to her. And this is not the type of person, everybody's got those people on Facebook that they know that they're looking for somebody just to say, oh, poor baby, they're just looking for some attention. This is not this person. This person is always very upbeat and positive. So for her to put this out on there, I really feel like she was feeling it honestly, and it broke my heart for her. People had let her down, and it had broken her. My other friend got in touch with me and one of my other friends. It was kind of a group message on text message. She is in charge of a local play that is going on that is supposed to be getting ready for competition. And I have been involved with helping out and consulting a little bit on that. And she texted yesterday and said that the person, one of the key characters, who is known for being not dependable, really, had let her down, had quit in the middle of the show. They've only got 2 weeks before they are to compete, and this person quit on her, just like that. No forewarning. It's just, I can't do it. Too much going on at home, apparently, they said, and she didn't know what she was going to do. And she was very frustrated and very down. And my other friend that she had reached out to besides me, we were all talking, and we had to kind of lift her up and explain to her it's not all lost. Here's what you can do. Here's how you go about fixing this situation, and I understand that you're disappointed. Someone has let you down, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's just take a break, take a breather, and figure out what to do and make a positive out of a negative. So I've come up with, surprise, surprise, 7 things that I think we can do in any situation where someone has let us down in order to kind of step back and not let it get us down, not let it just wear us to the point where everything seems bleak and we're just forlorn and depressed. How do you go about doing that when someone lets you down? How do you find the light? Number 1, I think you take a deep breath. And I'm not saying mentally, I'm saying literally. Stop and take a deep breath, maybe a few of them. Deep breath and let it out slowly. What this does is it allows oxygen to your brain. And when your brain breathes better, your brain works better. And when your brain works better, it uses logic better. Things that may have seemed like doom and gloom may not feel quite as bleak as they did. Because what we tend to do a lot of times when we get in those situations and everything's negative and we're worried is we forget to breathe. We get so manic and we talk and talk and talk and talk, and we get where we can barely breathe. So stop what you're doing. Take a deep breath, maybe 2 or 3, and just let it out slowly. Allow oxygen to your brain so that it can function at the max potential. That also eases you. It calms you when you take deep breaths like that. It has a physical reaction that calms you, and when you're calm, you're able to think better. So that's number 1. Literally take some deep breaths and let them out slowly. Number 2, find a positive. There's a positive in everything that happens, whether it feels like it or not, and especially if things that are negative have happened to you over and over and over and over again. It just feels like there can be nothing positive come out of any of this. But that's not the case. You can find something positive in everything. For instance, in the first story that I told you about, she found out the truth about this man that she was in love with. I know that it felt devastating to her. It was a blow. But she, I bet if you talk to her now, would tell you, I don't know what I'm hearing. I don't know if you can hear that. Oh, I do know what that is. That's fighter jets going over. There's an Air Force base not too far from where I am, and I keep hearing these jets go overhead. Anyway, she would probably tell you that even though it was a blow, now while she's clear-headed, she understands what kind of a person that man really is. To have just dropped her like that, unexpectedly, and especially right at a time where she's had a wreck, and she's feeling down, and she's healing and stuff, she knows what she had now. And maybe she dodged a bullet. That's a positive. She can start new with something fresh, and that's a positive. In the second story, here's an opportunity for a new actor to shine. There's this actor that let my friend down has been known, first of all, to let people down. Apparently has missed several practices, and there's had to be somebody that has stepped in to fill that role and just kind of read the script along with the rest of the actors as they worked out the scenes, and the person who's been filling in like that knows the part better than the other person does. So here's an opportunity for that person to step into the role and get an opportunity to shine where they didn't have a part or maybe had a lesser part. There's a light at the end of that tunnel. Here's somebody who is dedicated, who can show you what they've got and maybe shine. There's a light there. There's a positive that can be found out of it, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it, and sometimes you don't even want to. Take the time to stop and find a positive anyway, because that starts setting your mind in the right direction. So number 2, find a positive. Number 3, take a brisk walk. Here's another physical thing. It is a proven fact that when you exercise, your body releases endorphins that make you happy. That's why when you are not exercising and you don't feel like going on a walk or doing some exercise, but then once you've done it, And once your body gets working, you start feeling happy and you're so glad you did and you're positive and you're smiling. It's because your body has released endorphins into your brain that is making you happy. So take a brisk walk, get some fresh air, get a little bit of exercise, and purposefully release those endorphins that make you happier so that you can see some positive in something that would otherwise be negative. So number 3, take a brisk walk. Number 4, create something new. One of my favorite things to do, because I'm a creative type person, and if you're creative, you'll understand this. If you're not creative, maybe give it a shot anyway. I use creation and art to cope. So when I'm feeling down, creating something new gives me pep. It gets me excited about doing something. Creating something new shows me that there is a possibility of something fresh and new on the horizon. So when you feel awful, try creating something new to see if you can't motivate yourself to start something fresh. Number 5, decide to forgive and love them anyway. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things a person can do because you've been hurt. Somebody has done something against you. You've been attacked. However it makes you feel, it's a negative feeling. You don't want to forgive. It's very hard to do. But for the person who is doing the forgiving, it is so medicinal. It is such good medicine for you to just forgive them and say, you know what? Whatever their reason, and whether or not they want my forgiveness doesn't matter, I forgive them, and then love them anyway. That's taking the high road. When you forgive and love someone anyway, you're taking the high road. And I've mentioned this in several episodes and several different things that I've talked about doing, and I guess you can tell that's one of the things that is a principle of mine, is to always try to take the high road. Here recently, because as this is being recorded, we're only about a month away from elections for the new president, and I know who I'm going to vote for. I'm not happy with either candidate, but I know who I'm going to vote for. However, as the elections ramp up, so does the negativity on social media like Facebook and stuff like that, and people have gotten nastier and nastier and nastier with each other, and just so hate-filled based on the politics that are going on right now. And that burdens my heart. And yesterday, as I was looking at Facebook and trying to heal from some surgery I had, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, I got really burned out with Facebook. I almost decided I was just going to not look at Facebook and shut off my Facebook feed for a while until after the elections were over, because I'm just sick of it. People that I love being mean and nasty to other people that I love, and eliciting in me a response that makes me want to lash out and be just as mean. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it because I'm going to take the high road. There was a family member who put some stuff on there that really disappointed me. And it's her prerogative to feel this way, and it is her right and her opinion, and she's absolutely welcome to that. But it really kind of disappointed me. It let me down, seeing that she felt the way she feels. And although it is her opinion and it is her prerogative to feel that way, it did let me down. Instead of lashing back, instead of getting into an argument with her or feeling negative, I decided to take the high road and say, I love this person anyway, regardless of how she feels, and I'm going to love her and move on. And I think that's what we need to do anytime someone lets us down, is to forgive if there's forgiveness needed, and love them anyway. It is totally medicinal for you. It may not help them one bit. They may not care. But for you, this topic is, what do I do when someone has let me down? And I say you forgive and love them anyway. And that is number 5. Number 6, pray for them. If you're not a prayerful person, if you're not a spiritual person at all, that's fine. Skip number 6. But if you are, I think that is one of the best things you can do, and it goes right along with the forgiving and loving them, is to pray for them. This person that let the teacher friend of mine with the one-act play, this person that let her down, that was one of the things I put in our text relay back and forth yesterday, was I think we need to love this person, and I think we need to forgive and pray for this person. Because we don't know what's going on in their home life. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes that we have no idea about. All we know is that there's some trouble and they felt the need to do this. So what I say we do is pray for them and pray that God blesses them. So if you're a spiritual person, when people let you down, one of the key things to do to get your own blessing is to pray and pray for blessing for them. That's number 6. And number 7, finally, move on. Don't wallow in your sorrow. That's one of the hardest things to do as well, is to just get past it. When someone hurts us or lets us down, we tend to want to wallow in it. We tend to want to let everybody know how painful it is and what we're going through. And that's fine if you've got someone whose ear you can bend. That's fine. Maybe I should have even had that in there, find someone to vent to let it out. But mainly just find a way to move on. And if venting to somebody is part of that, that's great. But don't wallow in it. It's okay to grieve for a season. That's normal, it's natural. But to just hold on to it, then it becomes a grudge. You're holding on and chewing on negativity, and negativity never tasted good. It may taste sweet at first, but the longer you chew it, the more you realize it is very bitter and not worth it. So number 7, when someone does you wrong, when somebody has let you down, move on. So let me quickly recount those 7 things. What do I do when people let me down? Number 1, take a deep breath, literally. Number 2, find something positive in the situation. Number 3, take a brisk walk or do some sort of exercise to get the endorphins flowing. Number 4, create something new. Number 5, decide to forgive and love them anyway. Number 6, say a prayer for them. Ask God to bless them. And number 7, move on. Don't wallow in self-pity and the negativity. If you'll do those things, that'll go a long way toward helping you get over that pain when someone lets you down. And I'm not saying that you're wrong to feel let down. And I'm not saying you're wrong for negative things to happen and for you to feel like you've been put upon. I understand that. It happens to me all the time. But the key to living life in a positive manner is that when those things happen, not just if, but when those things happen, you grab the bull by the horns and say, that's fine. That's part of life. I am not going to let it define me. And don't. Go ahead and move on. That's my advice on what do I do when people let me down. In the past few episodes, I have not really had anything to talk about as far as my week went. It's just been work. I've said nothing really to report other than just working. Man, this week has been different. Right now it's Wednesday. I had an appointment on Monday to have the Mohs procedure done on 2 spots on my head where I had had skin cancers removed. They were both basal cell carcinomas, which are the kind you want to get if you're going to get them, because they can just be removed and they're gone. But you do have to make sure you get it all. And when they cut these spots off my head, they just kind of left them and let them start healing up like keloids, which they had done. And they didn't look great, but they didn't look awful. They would have turned the color of my skin. I would have been able to live with it. But they called me and told me they did not get all of it. And so I had to come back in for what's called the Mohs procedure. I've spoken about that earlier because I had that done on my back as well, where they have to go and get a good bit more of each spot around it, which makes the areas bigger and deeper. Well, I was concerned about these spots, and I didn't want them to be big keloid scars and stuff like that, and they said they didn't intend to do that anyway, that they were going to give me sutures or stitches for this round, so that they would make, scars, but not big, huge things like I was concerned about. So I went in Monday, and they did it, and it was relatively painless as far as the procedure went, because they give you shots to numb all around the area, and yeah, I had to endure the needle going in around each area about 12 times, but, as it starts numbing, you don't feel it that much anyway. It wasn't that big a deal, and you don't feel any of it when they start cutting on you. The difference was, when I had the stuff on my back done, earlier in the summer, I had 4 cut off that they got all of, and then another one they had to do the Mohs procedure on, and I had to go back, but none of that gave me any pain. The biggest problem was they were on my back, so it was hard to dress them, and my wife had to help. This being on my face, I can dress them, but I had no idea the pain I was going to endure, because what they have to do in order to close up those big holes they've cut in your face, one was on my forehead and one was on the side of my face up at my temple on my left side. They have to stretch your skin and stitch it. They have to just really pull your skin together tight and stitch it, and your skin will eventually kind of loosen up and form back where it goes because it's elastic, but for a while those stitches hold your skin tight. And they did that, and they covered up one of my eyes because it looked real bad, and then over all of the other bandages they wrapped this tight bandage around my forehead, and I had to leave it there for 48 hours. So yesterday, all day Monday and all day yesterday, I had to be bandaged up like that, and I was not to touch it. It caused so much pain. My face swole. My eyes, in fact, now my right eye now is getting just about back to normal, but my left eye is still pretty swollen right below where they did all the work. And it has really just caused problems and been extremely painful. I've been souped up on codeine the last few days as quick as I could take it. As soon as 4 hours was up, I'd pop another codeine to try to get rid of the pain. At least now the pain is, for the most part, it's there. If I touch it, it'll hurt, but it's not searing. And I can be off of the codeine now, and just regular acetaminophen is working. In fact, the positive review is going to be about the medication that I'm taking now that is over the counter, that is not the codeine, and it's doing a good job. Now, I got up this morning, and I was supposed to drive to Rock Hill, and when I got up at 5 o'clock, my eyes were still swollen, and I got about an hour into my drive and had to turn around and drive back home. I thought I was going to have to take another day off and reschedule everything, because I started getting sick as a dog. About 30 minutes into the drive, I realized I was feeling a little nauseated, and then about an hour into it, I realized I'm not going to make it. I don't need to be working like this, and I don't need to be driving 4 hours away feeling like this. So I turned around, laid back on the couch for a couple of hours, and then my 3-year-old daughter had such a fit that it woke me up when my wife was trying to get her ready to go to daycare. She's 3.5 years old, and she's in this stage where she pitches the most horrific fits about everything. And so I had to get up and kind of help my wife with her, and once that was done, I was awake again. And I realized that now that the sun was up, my eyes weren't having to work overtime. They were swollen, and my eyes were having a hard time focusing and everything. And so I guess because it was dark outside the first time I tried to drive, they were working so overtime it gave me a headache, which made me sick, because I decided to try it again, and that's this trip now, and it's working fine. So I don't look the best. I look like someone punched me up real nice, but that will go away, and the swelling is starting to go away more now anyway. So I'm on the healing end of this, but it has not been fun the past few days. Before I go, I want to do a couple of things. I want to give you, first of all, the positive review for this week. This week's positive review is Bare Back and Body. That is the medication that I'm using. My wife bought some the other day, and I've used it a couple of times, and it does a really good job. It's an extra strength acetaminophen caplet, but it also has caffeine, and I think that has been really good, especially for this morning, because I slept so much over the last couple of days. The codeine makes you sleepy, and so I slept so much that my body had gotten out of whack, And so the bare back and body, it really does help alleviate the pain, but at the same time, it gives me a little pep. So if you ever get a chance and you need to alleviate some pain, but you need some pep, don't want something that's going to make you drowsy, try some bare back and body. It's got a good fever reducer, good pain reducer, and it'll give you a little pep as well. And the last thing I'm going to do before I go, and I'm going to have to find a place to pull over up here because I finally got some feedback the other day and I want to talk about it. I actually emailed this person and asked her, I assume it's a her by the name. I asked her to email me back and tell me how to pronounce her name, and I never got an email back, so I'm going to just go ahead and do this, and I hope I get the name right. I'm going to pull this up, and then I'm going to pull over because I don't want to read anything like feedback and everything while I'm driving. So I'm going to find a place to pull over here in just a second. And I got this feedback from a person. The name I'm going to say is DeVerie Riley. You spell it Deverie, Riley. So I'm going to say DeVerie is this person's name, and here's the feedback. Hi, I just started listening to Road Noise on Monday. I wanted to let you know that I enjoy listening to your stories and thoughts. You are very motivating and real. I've been thinking about starting a blog for a while now. I'm going to take your advice and start putting pen to paper. Also, I really enjoyed your podcast on marriage. Great tips and advice. Thank you for putting your voice out there and sharing your life. Thank you, and have a great one, DeVerie. Thank you so much, DeVerie. And I sent her an email back immediately telling her thank you. And again, I'm assuming it's a girl. I keep saying her. I think it is. I really appreciate that. And I let her know that it was so timely because I had been seriously considering, again, going ahead and ending the Road Noise podcast based on not ever getting any feedback. I'd been having a rough time. I was emotional again. I'm tired. It's been a rough few weeks. It's a lot of work that goes into doing one of these podcasts. You just really don't, unless you've done a podcast and realize what kind of work goes into it, because it's not just hitting record and that's it. There's just so much that goes into getting it ready, getting it out there, getting it released, and all of that I was tired. And I had recorded episode 52 and I had said, 52, that's a full year's worth of podcasts. Nobody really ever lets me know how I'm doing, and maybe that's a good time to quit. Maybe that's a good number, a full year, 52 weeks. Maybe I'll just record like a quick thank you for listening and be done, because I just really wasn't feeling the love, and that happens from time to time. And the funny thing is, when I was thinking about it, you know how you'll be thinking about what you're gonna say in a situation, and I was working and I was thinking, okay, when I say my goodbye, I will tell them that I thought a lot about it, that I prayed about it, and then it hit me. I said, but Michael, you haven't prayed about it. You haven't said the first prayer about it. And I guess it's because I kind of feel like it's something God really wouldn't consider that big a deal, I guess. We forget that God is our Heavenly Father and that He loves us, and He's interested in the things that we're interested in. And sometimes I think we pretend like stuff's beyond Him, or we think things are beyond Him, or that He wouldn't care about the things we're interested in. And when that's not true, He does care about the things we're interested in. And so I said, before I do make that decision, I am going to pray over it. If I'm going to say that I prayed over it, I want to make sure I have prayed over it. And so that night, I went to the hotel room, and when I was doing my prayers, I said, let me mention this, God. I said, if Road Noise is just a hobby, and if it's run its course, I'm going to go ahead and end it. But speak to me in some way, guide me, and let me know if it has not run its course, if I need to carry it on, if I need to keep going with it. If there are people out there listening who enjoy what I do and enjoy listening to this show, I need to know, because I need to know that I'm not just wasting my breath here. And that feedback, the very first feedback I've gotten from a stranger, because I've gotten a couple of pieces of feedback here over the last year from friends of mine, people that I knew, But this is the very first one. DeVary is the very first one from someone I do not know. And that came the very next day after I said that prayer. So to me, that was about as clear a piece of guidance from God after a prayer that you can look for. You can call it a coincidence if you want to, but as far as I'm concerned, God was telling me road noise needs to keep going. It's touching lives. So, she said, thank you for sharing my voice and my life with her. I hope you're enjoying me sharing my voice and my life with you. And I would love for you to share your voice and your life with me. I want to get to know you. How can you do that? Well, you can get in touch with me just like DeVary did at feedback@michaelblackston.com. That's feedback@michaelblackston.com. That's the email address. You can also call me. I have a voicemail line, 706-408-7456. That's 706-408-7456. Love to hear your voice there, and I'll even put you on the podcast if you'd like me to. You can also check us out at roadnoisepodcast.com, and there you'll find the ability to stream the show right there from the webpage. You can share it to all of the social media outlets. You can get in touch with iTunes and leave me some feedback and a rating right there from roadnoisepodcast.com if you'd like to do that as well. So until next time, until episode 54, thank you so much for riding alongside me in the passenger seat. I'm Michael Blackston, and together we're going to learn to live life 1 mile at a time.